Tarantula Girl, coming to you from inside my office today with Bill Strand from the Strand Chameleon Caging Company and the Chameleon Breeding Podcast as well, which I have appeared on as a guest, which was really exciting. So I have Bill here on Skype, and he's going to be walking me through the unboxing of this magnificent chameleon cage that he sent me from the Strand Chameleon Caging Company. So let's get started. Okay.
All right, well, good afternoon, Marita. Thank you very much for having me here. And I'm pretty excited that the deadly tarantula girl is now getting into chameleons. Welcome to the chameleon community.
Well, thank you very much, Bill.
Well, we're going to get you started off right, and the best way to start off with chameleons is with the right setup.
Absolutely.
When you're starting with chameleons, the setup itself is probably a little bit more. When you're starting with chameleons, the setup itself can be expensive, but if you start off with the right equipment, then the actual caring of the chameleon really isn't that hard. So you're starting off with the correct equipment, and let's get you started.
Perfect.
So what you have from Strand is the large keeper kit, and that includes a cage which is 4 foot tall and has dragon ledges and an extra floor panel, and I'm going to explain why all those are important.
So it'll be almost as tall as I am.
Well, good. You know, and so this size cage is appropriate for most of the chameleons that the people that your viewers are going to be able to find, like a veiled chameleon, a panther chameleon, Jackson's chameleon, and any other chameleon that's smaller than a veiled chameleon, which most of them are going to fit nicely into that cage.
Awesome.
The only species that will outgrow that somewhat quickly are the Parsons chameleon, the Meller's chameleon, and the Austerlitz chameleon. But you're going to be fine because, well, I'll just say, well, I won't say what you will have. But,
might be a surprise.
So let's go ahead and start with the cage assembly.
Perfect.
And to start off, what you're going to want to do is get a bowl, because there are screws.
Okay.
And we don't want those to get away. And then scissors to do the unpacking, and then a Phillips head screwdriver.
Perfect. Okay, well, I have my tools. So I am starting with the cage as instructed by Mr. Strand.
So to start off with, go ahead and unpack all of the pieces so you can find them easily, and be careful to look for all the screw bags. You're going to have 3 bags in there. Ooh. 2 bags of screws and 1 bag with some fine holders.
Wow, beautiful packing, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, so sorry, I was so enamored by what I saw. How many bags of screws do I need to be looking for?
You're going to be looking for 3 bags in there. 2 will be of screws, and 1 will be of some fine holders, little plastic loops.
Okay. Okay, so I have these screws, and then the vinyl loops, it looks like.
Yep.
And then these screws that are in with the hinges and stuff.
Perfect.
Should I be looking for any more, or was that
Nope.
Okay. How did you get into the business of building chameleon cages?
Well, I have been involved in chameleons for almost 40 years now.
Oh, wow.
And I have loved caging and finding different ways to make the best environment for chameleons. And I was disappointed with what was commercially available in the market. It they were obviously not really designed by people who kept chameleons.
Right.
And so there were a number of things that needed to be available for chameleon keepers. But the number one thing that started my company was I wanted to make it easier for people to keep baby chameleons.
Oh.
And the problem with baby chameleons is they don't like to be around each other. We force them to grow up together. They would rather grow up alone. And so I decided for my chameleon breeding efforts, I wanted a caging system that allowed me to raise chameleon babies individually.
Interesting.
So I came up with the Dragon Strand nursery cage system, which is four individual compartments, four individual cages that can fit on a rack system. And so with your standard baker's rack, you can have 24 baby chameleons raised individually.
That's awesome.
And really, it was for me. This entire, I built a cage system around having 3 solid sides and having these different size cages, and that was for breeders, because with breeders we want to have chameleons in the same space, and so I need visual isolation. I want to be able to run my misting system without it getting the walls wet.
Right.
And so the breeder series was designed specifically for me, actually. And
Wow.
I just decided to make it available to anybody else who decided they wanted to do it too.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that.
And after that, my screen cages I actually brought on later because, well, actually I wanted screen cages that were, number one, had door handles and were rust proof.
Yes.
And so there were some things that I wanted to be available for us chameleon keepers.
This cage is lightweight enough that it's portable, that my thinking would say, oh, take your animals outdoors and let them have some natural sunlight and airflow. But as far as your most common chameleons that people keep in the hobby, veileds and panthers and chameleons of that nature, what are some of the risks or parameters in which you would want to be able to take your chameleons outdoors for a few hours in the afternoon?
Well, the whole reason for these cages being rust-proof is so you could take these cages outdoors. Now, we need to be very careful when we take our cages outdoors, is because that sun is very powerful.
Right.
And these cages, although this cage is enough space for a veiled chameleon to live in, it is not enough space for a veiled chameleon to be protected against the sun.
Right.
And so when you take your cage outdoors, you need to be very careful that there is enough area in the cage where the chameleon can get away from the sun. And this is especially true if you keep that white floor that we have with it.
Okay.
Because the sun will just bounce off that white floor. And so your chameleon will be cooked from top and bottom.
Yes, then you'll have roasted chameleon, which
yeah, that's not fun.
nobody wants.
So what you're going to want to do is take this cage out and put it on a table that's under a porch. And so ideally this porch is, say, west facing.
Uh-huh.
And so your chameleon would get the morning sun, and then as the sun gets up in the sky, it'll be blocked by the porch cover, and then your chameleon will just get indirect sun for the rest of the day.
Nice.
And that indirect sun still has UVB.
Right. Okay, perfect. So I actually have everything out of the box. What should I start with first?
Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install a misting system bracket.
Okay.
And this is for people who are going to use a misting system, which is recommended. So what I'm going to have you do is go into your misting system box and find that bracket.
Okay, perfect.
And for for your viewers, this bracket is a plastic wedge that allows you to mount a mist nozzle to your screen panel, so it can be mounted in your screen cage.
Okay. So I ordered the misting system recommended by Mr. Strand. Hello, Piggy. We have a piggy running around at my feet. This is a misting system by Climist. Bill, why do you recommend this misting system? And tell us just a little bit about it.
This is an automatic misting system, and it is a nice, strong misting system that will drive one cage, or it'll drive multiple cages. And what's special about this is it'll give you a fine mist, which can give the chameleon drinking water as well as mist that it can wash its eyes out. I want to say the reason why an automatic misting system is important is because it takes a while for a chameleon to settle into the mist and then settle in and start drinking, and then even more time until it will start washing its eyes out. And that just is way too much time for us to sit and manually use a hand sprayer.
Not to mention the chameleons often hesitate to behave the way they would naturally if it's someone misting them rather than as if they just encountered a mist and they felt like they were alone and safe and doing what they should just be doing regularly.
Exactly. Chameleons have not evolved to be pets. This is a very new concept to them, and everything inside them screams, if it's bigger than me, it'll probably eat me.
Right.
And so, there's no idea what to make of this big hairless ape standing over it, making goo-goo eyes at it. Now, in there, the only piece we need right now is that wedge-shaped piece of plastic and 4 screws that go with it.
Okay. All right, so I've got that.
And then put everything else back in that box, and we'll go and we'll get the Dragon Strand top panel.
Okay. This
Look
is
through all those
door.
pieces and find it should be cage panel E, as in eagle. And it'll say top panel.
top panel E. Okay.
We're going to put that on the table so the sticker is facing up.
Okay. So not only is this an unboxing, it is an assembly tutorial as well. So I have my top panel.
Okay. Now the sticker is at the back of the cage. So the side that is opposite the sticker side, that's going to be the front.
Okay.
And we are going to put the screen wedge on one of the front 2 corners.
Okay.
Now, you will see on the sides that there are pre-drilled holes for the vine holders.
Okay, see that.
And so you want to find the corner that does not have the pre-drilled hole, so you can put your misting wedge on that corner.
Perfect.
If I'm seeing things correctly, that will probably be in the corner to your right.
Yes.
You're facing.
Now, the smooth part goes on the top.
Hold that up to the camera. No, my camera.
Yeah, the smooth part will go against the cage.
Okay. Do these screw areas, they go over the aluminum?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are going to be driving that into the aluminum, the screws into the aluminum framing.
Okay.
Now, you're going to want to make sure that the edges of the screen wedge don't go over the edge of the aluminum framing,
Okay.
because we don't want them to interfere with the sides of the cage.
Oh, I see. Okay. So do I need to pre-drill or should I just screw them in?
All right, well, here is where we do our first screwing in of something into, we're going to drive it into the aluminum.
Okay.
So you're actually going to very firmly but strong twist that screw into the aluminum framing, and it will go in.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. The only thing you want to make sure you don't do is don't let it slip and go through the screen.
Right.
So it's got to be a steady hand and firmly just keep twisting, and it will break into the aluminum frame.
Okay.
For the people at home, don't worry. This is not going to compromise the strength of your cage.
I feel like I should tape this.
The only thing to be careful with as you're doing this is don't let the wedge shift.
That's
while
what
you're
I was
doing
just thinking
to
about.
the point where it will go over the edge of the aluminum framing, because there's some panels that are going to have to be attached to the side there.
Right.
Now, to the listeners, if you get a cage and you have it all built up and then you get a misting system, you can always apply these wedges on after the cage is put together. It's just a little bit awkward.
Okay. So all I'm doing is securing this little wedge with a piece of tape so it doesn't slide around while I am putting in these screws, because I want it to be perfect.
And if you're totally not confident in driving these screws through the aluminum framing, you can always carefully drill very small pilot holes, which will make the screwing in process a lot easier. It's up to you.
Okay. Light, Emmy.
And then one more hint for the listeners is that when you're screwing into the aluminum framing, be careful, very careful not to strip the hole. And what that means is if you keep turning the screw, you will strip the hole, and then the screw won't hold. So as soon as it's tightly in, you stop screwing.
Just get the other one started and we'll finish it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Get the tape off.
Now that my bracket is screwed in, I'm removing this tape. Just wanted to make sure that it was secured exactly where I wanted it. What's the next step, Bill?
The next step is to install the vine holders. And so you're going to be looking for the bag that has those little plastic loops.
Okay.
There'll be 2 screws in there. And we're going to be putting those in those pre-drilled holes that you see on the sides of that top panel.
Awesome.
And these are there to be a very convenient place to hang those artificial vines that you can buy at any reptile store.
Nice.
Now, folks, keep in mind, these are meant for those artificial vines. They are not going to be holding substantial weight. For that, we have the dragon ledges, which are coming up next.
Okay, so what do I do with these?
Installed, there's 2 of them.
Yes.
And if you look, you'll find holes drilled on the side, not the side as in, it'll be on the same level as the wedge that we just installed.
Okay.
So you can put that back flat on the table
Okay.
with the sticker pointing up. And then you'll notice to the left and the right of the side that has the sticker,
Here and
you'll
here?
see holes drilled, pre-drilled. Yes, yes.
Okay. So this little bracket just goes on the outside here.
No,
The
should sit.
it'll go. Yeah, I'd have to see it when you're done.
So does it go this way or this way?
You can't see what you're doing.
The camera is just so bad.
Okay.
Get the light a little closer over the top.
One hint when putting these Dragon Strand cages together
Yes.
is that the sticker side goes to the inside of the cage,
Oh, okay.
and that's helpful when we start in with the side panels.
Right.
I have had people reverse the side panels and tell me that their door won't close. Ooh,
Ask him if God forbid.
I had to
you-
change the assembly instructions to make it very clear.
Oh, yeah.
If God forbid, if you ever rip this screen, is there any way to repair a tear?
Oh, that's a good idea. So let's say something catastrophic happens and the screen ever gets torn. Is there any way to ever repair the screen? Anton, look at the light and where it's going.
Yes, you can either call me, contact Dragon Strand and ask for a replacement screen, or else if you want to fix it yourself, you can always cut a small piece of screen, aluminum screen that you can get at Home Depot, and use a little bead of silicone around the hole and just patch it with another piece of screen.
Good to know. Okay.
Show it to him.
So I hope this is done correctly. So this is the sticker side, and I have my bracket here, and my bracket here.
That looks absolutely beautiful.
Excellent. Alrighty.
All right. Now this is the fun part.
Yay!
We are going to install dragon ledges.
Alright.
Now, those are the plastic forms that you see. Yeah, to your left. There you go. Now, this is actually a Dragon Strand invention, and it is patent pending. The one thing that we needed in the chameleon community was the ability to mount horizontal branches in a screen cage.
Yes.
We've come up with a number of different ways that are just almost work, but not so well. They always put stress on the screen, which is not designed to hold weight.
Right.
So I invented these to allow us to put branches horizontally and made them strong enough so we can even mount plants on them. And that way you can create a hanging garden within your chameleon cage.
Wow.
And so that allows a whole lot of artistry to be done.
Yes.
So,
Okay, so this is a Dragon Strand invention, which is intended to support hanging plants and a full hanging garden without putting stress on your mesh caging. So that is unique to these cages and really, really awesome.
all right. So we are going to put one on the back panel and two on each side panel.
Okay.
So the first thing we'll do is we'll get the back panel. So that's going to be one of those real big. It's going to be panel A, which
Okay.
is a back panel.
Right.
And so you'll want to put it on the table. This time, you'll want to put it sticker side down.
Okay. And with the sticker near me or away from me?
It's not going to matter at this point.
Okay.
We're going to put it smack dab in the middle.
Okay.
Now the dragon strand, the dragon ledges are included loose, so you can put them wherever you want on your cage.
Okay.
What we're going to do is the most common way to do it, and we're going to put on the back panel. We're going to have one dragon ledge going across the middle. So what you'll want to do is take one of those long black PVC pieces. We call them the horizontal back brace.
Okay.
And we're going to put that, I want you to put that across the back panel, so right in the middle, so it just cuts it in half.
Oh, like this?
Yep, just like that.
Okay.
And so we're going to get now 2 of the short screws. We're going to find the bag of screws that came with the dragon ledges. So it was attached to the dragon ledge assembly. And go ahead and cut that bag open and put them in the bowl.
Okay, so it looks like I have 2 bags of screws left, and one is longer and one is shorter.
Yes, so go ahead and get the one that has the real long screw and then the short screws.
Okay.
The dragon ledge screw pack will be the one that has a 1-inch long bunch of 1-inch long screws.
Okay.
And you're going to, once you open up that screw packet, you're going to be looking for 4 of the small screws.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is use those 4 small screws to fasten that back brace to the back panel. Now it's important that this back brace goes on the outside of the cage.
Okay.
And so this will go on the cage pieces on the side that doesn't have the stickers.
Okay.
Ask them if you need to measure.
So Marita, do your best to figure out where the middle of the cage is,
Okay.
knowing that it really isn't important if you get it exact.
Okay, I was looking for something too.
The only thing you'll want to do is make sure that it is straight across.
Okay.
Now, structurally, it doesn't matter if it's at an angle. It'll just annoy anybody with any little bit of OCD for the rest of their life.
Yes.
Now, if you do put it on and then it's bothering you, you can take it off, move it a little bit, and refasten
Adjust
it
it.
down.
Okay.
You'll end up with a little hole on the back of your cage, a couple of unused holes that you drilled through, but nobody's really going to notice that.
Right. Something to measure this, or even.
He's going to get some.
No. Okay. Let's see. Make this about half. Okay. About this one? I'll just eyeball.
By the way, using that panel as a guide is an excellent tool.
Okay. Approximately. Not exactly, but. Okay. Will you pre-drill or help me?
Do you want us to move the stool closer? So it's everywhere.
Sorry.
Is it her back side and the front side of this?
Mm.
No. Okay. Remeasure it. Sorry.
Pieces of black PVC.
Okay.
That is our spacer, and we're going to put it we're going to align the 3 holes between it and the back brace.
Okay.
And so if you notice, that perfectly fills up the gap between the
Oh.
back brace and the screen.
Okay.
Now, go into your screw bowl and find 3 of the long screws.
Okay.
And put those through each of those 3 holes.
Okay.
And these screws are going to penetrate the screen. We want to do that?
Yes. Yes, and that is the #1 concern of chameleon keepers worldwide, is putting a hole through the screen. But there's going to be a piece on the other side, the actual ledge part, that's going to sandwich this all together, so you're never going to see that hole.
Okay.
And as these are permanent additions to your cage, there really isn't an application or use case where you would ever remove these again. So when that's done, you carefully put it on its side and you bring in the actual ledge part.
Okay.
And as you may well guess, we're going to put the pre-drilled holes on the ledge pads up against the screws. And we're going to tighten the screws down so it all becomes one piece. And what this does is it's going to take all the weight from inside of the cage. It's going to transfer it to the back brace, which transfers it to the aluminum frame.
Nice.
It's actually quite strong. To test these dragon ledges, I hung hanging pots full of bricks and rocks.
Oh, wow. So is it this part?
Because we know that bricks and rocks, they need the ventilation that a screen cage offers.
Right. So it's this part now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is
So what I
fun.
do is I poke one screw through this, all you need is the tip.
Right.
And you find that tip with the hole on the first pad, and then you can just screw it in a little bit, and then do the same for the next hole, and then the next hole, and then you can tighten all 3 screws in.
It's in the video. Very nice.
And now you have a convenient handle for the screen panel.
Wow, that's awesome.
And when it's all together, you actually can move the cage around by grabbing the dragon ledge back braces.
Oh.
Provides
Awesome.
a very nice handle for carrying the cage.
Whew. Okay. So I'm assuming we do this with the opposite panel now?
Yes, this is the fun continues because now we're going to do this for each side panel, and we're going to do 2 for each side panel.
Yay! Okay. Okay, so first, let's see, right top. So what panel do you recommend I use next?
Go ahead and go for the right side panel.
Okay.
Marita,
Yes.
let's check something. One thing we need to make sure is that we don't interfere with the pre-drilled mounting holes that are already on there.
Okay.
And I absolutely should have said this before you started screwing that down. Let's check that back panel and see if I have led us astray here.
No. Are you talking about the ones that are up on the edges here?
Yeah, there'll be on the edges, and I just want to make sure that we didn't.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are nowhere near the brace.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Excellent.
I need that to measure this next.
Now that becomes a serious consideration. The back brace, it's really easy to avoid all those because there isn't a screw attachment in the middle. Now with each of the side panels, there's a lot going on with door tabs and such. So go ahead and put a side panel down with the sticker side down again. And you'll want to install these in roughly divide the cage in thirds.
Okay.
So
So,
they're not going to be at the same height as the first one we put in?
No.
oh. Okay. So,
The first one we put in was across the middle, and now we're going to put 2 on each of the sides, and so there'll be one above the one on the middle and one below the level of the
so
middle
should it
one.
be above or below the hinges, or do you have a preference?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So go ahead and put it above the hinges.
Okay.
Which
Oh.
I absolutely think you should.
That would be amazing.
Well, it doesn't have to be a male chameleon, but a baby chameleon.
Yeah.
Because then you can raise it up, and captive bred are so much better than
Oh, yeah.
wild caught as far as pet quality.
Okay.
You can do the other ones.
Okay. Make sure we're still.
I need that other card. Put this on the computer and delete everything off.
Oh, long screws for this part, right?
Short screws go into the framing. The long screws attach the plastic. Yeah.
So for this part, the long screws.
That's a bugger. temperatures a chameleon can safely handle for what period of time, and the high and the extremes.
Okay. Since I have my chameleon expert on the horn, tell us a little bit about temperature extremes that chameleons can comfortably tolerate, in your opinion, Bill.
That is going. The chameleons can the temperature range that a chameleon can be comfortable with or tolerate greatly depends on the species. And chameleons inhabit environments as diverse as the sand dunes of the Namib Desert, all the way up to the mountain peaks that get down to freezing. And so it's very important to take a look at the environment that your chameleon species comes from, because of course all of those chameleons from all around the world, they're all put in the cages next to each other at the store or the reptiles show.
Right.
And so you got to figure out where that chameleon came from. And some of the most popular chameleons, say the veiled chameleon, that can take temperatures up into the high 80s, even the low 90s, although you don't want to force a chameleon to stay at that temperature range.
Right.
You want to give them the gradient, so under the heat lamp, have it into the nice warm, the high 80s, even the low 90s. And but then at the bottom of the cage, it should be, say, in the high 70s if possible.
Okay.
And so you have a nice range of temperature that your chameleon can choose from. And that's vitally important in the chameleon cage, is to give them extremes to choose from. So say a basking spot in the high 80s, and then the bottom of the cage in the mid 70s. And then the chameleon, as long as you create your highways, your branch highways, all along from top to bottom, then the chameleon can choose where it wants to be at the time. Because chameleons are just like us. And if you look at our lives, well, okay, they're not just like us, but we see this in our lives to where we are almost never comfortable at the temperature that we're at. We are always changing it. We're adding a sweater. We're taking off a sweater. We're rolling down the window of the car. We're turning on the air conditioner. We're turning off the air conditioner. We're moving into the sunlight to get a little bit warm, and then we're moving back into the shade. So we're regulating our temperature all the time. And your chameleon is no different in that regard. It's going to want to regulate its temperature. It's going to want to warm up. And then when it's warmed up, it's going to want to go into a cooler place.
Right.
So we need to give it all of those options, because there's no way we can know what it needs at any time. So we got to give it the option so it can make its own decisions.
Right.
What I'm thinking about is keeping them outside.
Now, your Jackson's chameleon, which is very popular around here, it's going to want a lot lower temperatures, and so it's going to be comfortable in the range of the 70s. So from the lower 70s to the high 70s. Panther chameleons, they're going to be comfortable into the 80s, and but they still want to have a cool down period in the 70s. And so you want to do the research into what your species wants, and try to stay away from all of the arguments, because people decide it's got to be this temperature range, it's got to be that temperature range. It's just got to be warm, and it's got to be cool.
Right.
And it gets too hot when it hurts your hand to put your hand under it.
Okay.
So put your hand under your basking lamp, right at wherever the closest the chameleon can possibly get to that basking lamp.
Okay.
And remember, veils have that large casque on their head, so that point counts.
Right.
And put your hand there, and let that hand sit under that basking lamp for, say, a minute. Is it too hot? Does it hurt? Well, then that's too hot for the chameleon. Make sure it warms your hand up to a very comfortable level.
Well, that's a good little tip. I've never heard that before.
Ask them about keeping them outside in Roswell, New Mexico weather. If there's any way you can keep a cool spot cool enough, like taking a gallon water jug with cool water in it. If it gets up to 100 degrees, is the chameleon going to know to go there? And is that going to be enough, even in a shady spot?
So, I think about if I were to put this cage outdoors in the summertime in Roswell, New Mexico, where it may be 100 degrees outside, would it be possible to provide a cool enough area for this animal to live in? Or to go into, obviously it wouldn't be left out there, that it would be comfortable? Like with a cool, like a gallon water jug or something? Or would it be better just to keep it indoors at that point?
Well, if it's 100 degrees outside, you're number one going to want to keep it in the shade.
Right.
And you'll want to be cooling the animal down with the misting system.
Okay.
Now, temperature, the way how comfortable the chameleon is dependent on both temperature and humidity.
Right.
So if you have a dry heat, the chameleon is going to be able to take a lot less of the high temperature.
Right.
If you're very humid, your chameleon is going to be able to take a higher temperature. Now, you can help the chameleon with the higher temperatures by using a misting system. And the mist cools them off like it does us, with water evaporating off their skin. But what you're going to want to do is let the chameleon tell you when it's had enough. And chameleons are wonderful in the way that they change color. And as we know, it's not to match their background, but it's to communicate, but it's also to thermoregulate. And what that means is when the chameleon is getting too hot, it will get very pale. And that's to reflect all of the heat energy and trying to keep the chameleon as cool as possible. If your chameleon starts to get pale and light in color, that is your cue that it's getting too hot. We're getting into the tolerant zone of your chameleon, and right now you're going to be pushing it to see how much it can tolerate before its systems fail. So take that message of the chameleon starting to get pale, or the chameleon starting to open its mouth.
Okay.
That means it's getting dehydrated, and it's trying to let go of that temperature of the inside of its body. It's trying to cool its body. So chameleon starts to get pale in color and starts to open its mouth. These are signs that we're getting into the danger zone.
Okay.
Bring that chameleon in.
Good information. Alrighty, I'm done with this panel. Well, for now.
Yeah, and then you've got one more panel to do.
Okay.
So get the other side panel. Got to do the same thing. Now you've got 2 ledges there.
Yes.
Okay. So you bring the other side panel up, and once again the sticker side goes down. And I usually put the ledges on this panel at the same heights as I did the other panel, but that's not necessary.
Okay.
So if you're the type that thinks that you want them at the same level, then go ahead and try to put them at the same level, knowing that functionally it's not important.
Okay.